6 years. That is how long I had been wearing this jersey. 6 years of early morning workouts when the city was still asleep. 6 years of rehab sessions that felt like torture, of doubt that crept in during those long nights when my body refused to cooperate, of proving myself over and over again to coaches, teammates, and fans who had seen me grow from a nervous rookie into a reliable starter. I remember my first day with this organization like it was yesterday. The weight of the jersey in my hands, heavier than any piece of fabric should feel. The way my mother cried in the stands during my first home game. The text from my little brother that just said, "You made it," with 3 basketball emojis. Simple, pure, real. That memory feels like it belongs to someone else now. Today was supposed to be the start of something new. The front office had been talking about it for weeks. A fresh direction, a new philosophy. The hiring of Marcus Davidson, a coach with a reputation that preceded him like a shadow. He had turned around 3 franchises in 7 years. He was known for his intensity, his no-nonsense approach, his ability to extract every ounce of potential from his players. The media loved him. The owners loved him. He was the golden ticket to championship contention. I should have known something was wrong when he walked into the facility that first morning. There was no warmth in his greeting, no attempt to connect. He moved through the hallways like he already owned the place, his assistant coach trailing behind him with a tablet and a grim expression. He did not shake hands. He did not smile. He just observed us with those cold, calculating eyes, like we were specimens under glass rather than human beings who had poured our lives into this team. The team meeting was scheduled for 10 in the morning. We gathered in the film room, the usual pre-game energy replaced by something heavier. Uncertainty. Tension. Nobody knew what to expect. Coach Davidson stood at the front of the room, arms crossed, waiting for complete silence before he spoke. When he finally did, his voice was sharp and deliberate. "Gentlemen, I am not here to be your friend. I am not here to coddle you or celebrate what you have done in the past. The past does not matter to me. What matters is what you can do right now, today, under my system. Some of you will thrive, some of you will not. That is the nature of this business." I felt something twist in my stomach. Around me, my teammates shifted uncomfortably. This was not a pep talk. This was a warning. He continued, "I have spent the last 3 weeks studying film. Every game from last season. Every practice tape the organization had available. I have identified weaknesses. I have identified redundancies. And I have made decisions that I believe will position this team for success moving forward." Then he pulled out a sheet of paper. Just one piece of paper. He did not even look at it as he spoke my name. "Johnson, you are being released from the active roster effective immediately. Report to the front office to finalize your exit paperwork. We appreciate your time with the organization." The room went silent. Not the kind of silence that comes before applause or celebration. The kind of silence that follows a car accident. Shock, disbelief, horror. I sat frozen in my seat, my mind trying to process what I had just heard. Released. Effective immediately. Just like that. No conversation, no explanation, no opportunity to prove myself under his system. 6 years reduced to a single sentence delivered without even the courtesy of eye contact. Around me, I could feel my teammates staring. Some looked away quickly, embarrassed to witness my humiliation. Others looked angry, confused, like they could not believe what they were hearing. My best friend on the team, Marcus, started to stand up, his face flushed with anger, but I caught his eye and shook my head. "Do not. Not now. Not here." Coach Davidson had already moved on. He was talking about practice schedules, about his defensive schemes, about expectations for conditioning, as if nothing had happened. As if he had not just destroyed my career in front of 23 other men without a second thought. I stood up slowly, my legs feeling disconnected from my body. The walk from my seat to the door felt like miles. Every step echoed in that terrible silence. When I reached the door, I paused, my hand on the handle, and turned back. Coach Davidson was pointing at something on the screen, completely absorbed in his presentation. He did not look at me. Not once. I walked out into the hallway and the door clicked shut behind me. The sound felt final. Absolute. My phone was buzzing in my pocket. Text messages flooding in from teammates who were still in that room. I could not look at them. Not yet. Instead, I walked toward the front office, each step feeling heavier than the last. The administrative assistant looked up when I entered, her expression a mixture of pity and professional detachment. She had the paperwork ready. Of course she did. This had been planned, calculated. I was not caught off guard by some sudden decision. This had been decided before Coach Davidson even walked into that room, maybe before he even took the job. I sat down across from the team's general manager, Robert Chen, a man I had known for 6 years, a man who had drafted me, who had believed in me when I was just a kid with potential and a dream. Now he could not meet my eyes. "I know this is difficult," he began, his voice careful and measured. "But Coach Davidson has full authority over roster decisions. This is his team now, his vision." I did not respond. What could I say? This was not a negotiation. This was an execution. He slid the papers across the desk. Standard release forms, confidentiality agreements, legal language that essentially said I would walk away quietly and not cause trouble for the organization. In return, they would honor the remainder of my contract, 18 months of salary. A comfortable exit, financially speaking. But money was not what I had built here. Money could not replace the relationships, the identity, the sense of purpose that came with being part of something bigger than myself. I signed the papers without reading them. What was the point? My hand moved mechanically, my signature appearing on line after line. When it was done, Robert stood and extended his hand. I looked at it for a long moment before shaking it. His grip was firm but brief. Professional, distant. "You are a good player," he said quietly. "You will land on your feet." I nodded because that is what you do in these situations. You nod. You thank them for the opportunity. You walk out with whatever dignity you can salvage. Even when every fiber of your being wants to scream, to flip the desk, to demand answers that you know you will never get. I left the building through the side entrance, avoiding the main lobby where reporters sometimes waited. My car was parked in the player lot, sandwiched between 2 vehicles that belonged to teammates who were still inside, still part of the team, still living the dream that had just been ripped away from me. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, staring at the steering wheel. My phone continued to buzz. Messages from my agent demanding to know what happened. Messages from my mother asking if the rumors she was seeing online were true. Messages from Marcus saying that the whole team was in shock and that Coach Davidson was a coward for not even explaining his decision. But there was one notification that stood out. An email from an unknown address. The subject line simply read, "You deserve to know the truth." I hesitated before opening it. Part of me did not want to know. Part of me just wanted to drive away, process my grief, and figure out my next move without digging into conspiracies or drama. But curiosity won. It always does. The email was short. 3 sentences. No signature. What happened today was not about basketball. Check Davidson's connection to your former agent. This was personal, and you were the target. My former agent. I had parted ways with him 8 months ago after discovering he had been skimming money from my endorsement deals. It had been ugly. Legal threats, accusations. He had sworn he would make me pay for ruining his reputation. I stared at the email, my mind racing. Could it be true? Could Coach Davidson and my former agent be connected? It seemed impossible, too convenient, too much like a movie plot. But then again, this morning had seemed impossible too. I did not sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Coach Davidson's face, that cold, indifferent expression as he spoke my name like I was nothing. Like 6 years of loyalty, of sacrifice, of bleeding for this team meant absolutely nothing to him. The anonymous email haunted me. Check Davidson's connection to your former agent. This was personal, and you were the target. I spent hours on my laptop, searching for anything that might link Marcus Davidson to Stephen Pierce, my former agent. Social media connections, shared business ventures, mutual contacts, but there was nothing obvious. If they knew each other, they had been careful to keep it hidden. By the time the sun started to rise, I was exhausted but no closer to answers. I made coffee and sat on my balcony, watching the city wake up. Joggers passed below, cars filled the streets. Life moved forward, indifferent to the fact that mine had just been shattered. My phone rang at 7:30 in the morning. Unknown number. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello?" There was a pause, then a woman's voice, quiet and urgent. "Is this Darius Johnson?" "Yes." "Who is this?" "My name is Sarah Mitchell. I am Coach Davidson's assistant. We need to talk. In person. Now." My heart started pounding. Why would Davidson's assistant be calling me? And why did she sound so scared? About what? About what happened to you yesterday. About why it happened. And about what I found in his office last night. I gripped the phone tighter. Where? There is a coffee shop on Maple Street, 3 blocks from the arena. The Corner Brew. Meet me there in 30 minutes. Come alone. And please, do not tell anyone about this call. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there for a moment, staring at my phone. This could be a setup, a trap. Maybe Davidson had sent her to gauge my reaction, to see if I was planning to cause trouble. But the fear in her voice had sounded real, genuine. I grabbed my keys and left. The Corner Brew was a small, dimly lit place that smelled like roasted beans and old books. It was mostly empty at this hour, just a few early risers with laptops and newspapers. I spotted Sarah immediately. She was sitting in the back corner, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup, her eyes darting nervously toward the door every few seconds. She was younger than I expected, maybe late 20s, with dark hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. She wore glasses and a blazer that looked too formal for a coffee shop meeting. When she saw me, relief and terror crossed her face in equal measure. I slid into the seat across from her. "You are Sarah?" She nodded quickly. "Thank you for coming. I know this is strange. I know you have no reason to trust me, but I need you to hear what I have to say." I leaned back, arms crossed. "I am listening." She glanced around the coffee shop again, then pulled a folder from her bag and placed it on the table between us. Inside were printed emails, text messages, and what looked like financial documents. "I have been Coach Davidson's assistant for 2 years," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I handle his schedule, his correspondence, his travel arrangements, everything. 2 months ago, he asked me to set up a private meeting with someone. He did not tell me who, and he made it clear I was not to ask questions. But I saw the name on the calendar invite, Stephen Pierce. My blood went cold. Stephen Pierce, my former agent." Sarah continued. "I did not think much of it at first. Coaches meet with agents all the time, but then after he took this job, I started noticing strange things. Phone calls he would take in private, emails he would delete immediately after reading. He was being secretive, which was not like him. So I started paying attention." She pushed the folder toward me. "Last night, after everyone left, I went back to his office. I know I should not have, but something felt wrong. I found these in his desk, printed copies of emails between him and Stephen Pierce. They go back 6 months, before he even interviewed for this job." I opened the folder with shaking hands. The first email was dated 7 months ago. The subject line read, "Opportunity for mutual benefit." I read the exchange, my anger building with every line. Stephen Pierce had approached Davidson with a proposition. If Davidson took the head coaching job with my team, Pierce would use his connections to help Davidson secure a lucrative endorsement deal with a major sports brand. In return, Davidson would cut me from the roster as soon as he took over. No explanation, no second chance, just immediate dismissal. Pierce's motive was clear: revenge. I had exposed his fraud, cost him clients, damaged his reputation. He wanted to destroy my career in return, and he had found someone willing to help him do it. There was more. Text messages showing Pierce had paid Davidson $50,000 up front, with another $100,000 promised once I was officially released. Financial records showing the transaction, evidence of conspiracy, corruption, betrayal. I looked up at Sarah, my hands trembling. "Why are you showing me this? You work for him. This could cost you your job, maybe worse." Her eyes filled with tears. "Because what he did to you was wrong. I have watched you play for years. I know what kind of person you are. You did not deserve this. Nobody deserves this. And I cannot work for someone who would do something so cruel for money." She wiped her eyes quickly, composing herself. "I made copies of everything. These are yours. The originals are still in his desk. I do not know what you are going to do with this, but you deserve to know the truth. You deserve to fight back." I stared at the documents, my mind racing. This was proof. Undeniable, concrete proof that my dismissal had nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with revenge and greed. With this, I could go to the media. I could sue the organization. I could destroy Davidson's career the same way he had tried to destroy mine. But I could also see the fear in Sarah's eyes. If I exposed this, she would be caught in the crossfire. Davidson would know someone had leaked the documents. He would come after her. "What are you going to do now?" I asked her. She shook her head. "I do not know. I cannot keep working for him. Not after this. But I also cannot afford to lose this job. I have student loans, rent, a life that depends on that paycheck." I closed the folder and met her gaze. "You did the right thing. I do not know what I am going to do with this yet, but I promise you, I will not let you get hurt because of it. If this goes public, I will make sure your name stays out of it." She nodded, but the fear did not leave her face. "Be careful, Darius. Davidson has powerful friends, And Stephen Pierce is not someone who lets things go. If they find out you have this information, they will come after you. Let them, I said quietly. I am not afraid of them anymore. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of what had just happened settling over both of us. Then Sarah stood, gathered her things, and left without another word. I watched her go, then looked down at the folder in my hands. This changed everything. Yesterday, I was a victim. Today, I had a weapon. I left the coffee shop and drove straight to my lawyer's office. Jonathan Price was a sharp, no-nonsense attorney who had handled my contract negotiations and the legal mess with Stephen Pierce. If anyone would know what to do with this information, it was him. When I walked into his office and dropped the folder on his desk, his expression shifted from confusion to shock as he read through the documents. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his voice tight. I explained everything. The anonymous email, the meeting with Sarah, the conspiracy between Davidson and Pierce. Jonathan leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled in front of his face. "This is explosive, Darius. If this goes public, it will destroy Davidson's career. It could even implicate the organization if they knew about the arrangement and did nothing to stop it." "Good," I said flatly. "They deserve it." He held up a hand. "I understand you are angry. You have every right to be. But we need to be strategic about this. If we go public now, Davidson and Pierce will lawyer up immediately. They will claim the documents are fake, that you fabricated them out of spite. It will turn into a he said, she said situation that could drag on for years. So, what do you suggest?" Jonathan smiled, a cold, calculating expression. "We go to the organization first, privately. We present this evidence to the general manager and the owner. We give them a choice. They can fire Davidson, void his contract, and issue a public apology to you. Or we take this to the media and let the court of public opinion decide. And what about Stephen Pierce? We file a lawsuit. Conspiracy, fraud, tortious interference with a business relationship. We go after every dollar he has, and we make sure he never works in this industry again." I nodded slowly. "How long will this take? If the organization cooperates, we could have this resolved within a week. If they fight us, it could take months. But either way, Darius, you are going to win this. The evidence is too strong. They cannot ignore it." For the first time since yesterday morning, I felt something other than rage and despair. I felt hope. Not just for my career, but for justice. For the chance to prove that people like Davidson and Pierce could not get away with destroying lives for profit and revenge. Jonathan started making calls immediately. By noon, we had a meeting scheduled with Robert Chen and the team owner, Patricia Lawson, for the following morning. 24 hours to prepare. 24 hours to get ready for the fight of my life. I spent the rest of the day going over every detail with Jonathan, making sure we had our story straight, anticipating every possible defense they might use. By the time I left his office, it was dark outside. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, my teammate. "We need to talk. The whole team is behind you. Whatever you need, we have got your back." I smiled for the first time in 2 days. I was not alone in this fight, and tomorrow, the truth was going to come out. Tomorrow, everything would change. The meeting was set for 9 in the morning. Jonathan and I arrived at the arena 30 minutes early, both of us carrying briefcases filled with evidence that would either save my career or blow this entire situation wide open. The receptionist looked uncomfortable when she saw me, like she did not know whether to greet me as a former player or pretend I did not exist. "Mr. Chen and Miss Lawson are waiting for you in the executive conference room," she said quietly, avoiding my eyes. We took the elevator to the 3rd floor in silence. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. This was it. The moment where everything either came together or fell apart completely. The conference room was all glass and polished wood, with a view of the city skyline that had always made me feel small. Robert Chen sat at the head of the table, his expression carefully neutral. Next to him was Patricia Lawson, the team owner, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had built her fortune in real estate before buying the team 15 years ago. She was known for being fair but ruthless when crossed. "Gentlemen," she said, gesturing to the chairs across from them. "Please, sit." Jonathan and I sat down. He placed his briefcase on the table but did not open it yet. Not until the right moment. "Miss Lawson, Mr. Chen, thank you for meeting with us on such short notice," Jonathan began, his voice calm and professional. "We are here to discuss the circumstances surrounding Mr. Johnson's release from the team and to present evidence that we believe will be of significant concern to you both." Robert shifted in his seat. "Darius, We have already explained that Coach Davidson has full authority over roster decisions. This is not a negotiation. Jonathan smiled thinly. With all due respect, Mr. Chen, this is not about coaching decisions. This is about criminal conspiracy and corruption within your organization. The room went silent. Patricia's eyes narrowed. You have our attention, Mr. Price. Explain. Jonathan opened his briefcase and pulled out the folder Sarah had given me. He slid copies of the documents across the table to both of them. What you are looking at are emails, text messages, and financial records that prove Coach Marcus Davidson conspired with Mr. Johnson's former agent, Stephen Pierce, to have Mr. Johnson removed from the roster. This was not a basketball decision. This was a paid hit job motivated by personal revenge. I watched their faces as they read through the documents. Robert's expression shifted from skepticism to shock to something close to horror. Patricia's face remained unreadable, but her jaw tightened with every page she turned. When they finished reading, Patricia looked up at me, then at Jonathan. Where did you get these? From a source within your organization who was disturbed enough by what they discovered to bring it to Mr. Johnson's attention, Jonathan replied carefully. We are not going to reveal their identity, but I can assure you these documents are authentic. The emails came from Coach Davidson's official account. The financial transactions can be verified through banking records. This is real, and it is actionable. Robert looked like he might be sick. If this is true, if Davidson really did this, then we have a serious problem. Not just legally, but ethically. We cannot have a coach who can be bought. Patricia set the documents down and folded her hands on the table. Her voice was cold and controlled. Assuming these documents are legitimate, what are you asking for, Mr. Price? Jonathan leaned forward. We want 3 things. First, Coach Marcus Davidson's immediate termination for cause with no severance package. Second, a public statement from the organization acknowledging that Mr. Johnson's release was based on fraudulent grounds and offering him reinstatement to the roster with a formal apology. Third, full cooperation in our lawsuit against Stephen Pierce, including any additional evidence the organization may have regarding his involvement. And if we refuse, Patricia asked, then we go to the media. Today, every major sports network, every newspaper, every podcast will have copies of these documents by this afternoon. Your franchise will be the center of the biggest corruption scandal in professional basketball history. Ticket sales will plummet, sponsors will pull out, and every player in the league will think twice before signing with an organization that allows this kind of behavior. The threat hung in the air like smoke. I could see Patricia calculating, weighing her options. She had not built an empire by making emotional decisions. She was thinking about damage control, about protecting her investment, about what would cost her the least in the long run. Give us an hour, she said finally. We need to verify these documents and consult with our legal team. Jonathan nodded. Of course. We will be in the lobby. We left the conference room and took the elevator back down. My legs felt weak. My hands were shaking. Jonathan put a hand on my shoulder. You did good in there. Stayed calm. Let me do the talking. Now we wait. The next hour was the longest of my life. We sat in the lobby, surrounded by photos of championship teams and retired jerseys. My jersey number was not up there. Not yet. Maybe not ever, if this went wrong. My phone buzzed with texts from teammates checking in, from my mother asking how the meeting went, from my new agent saying he was standing by if I needed anything. The support felt good, but it did not ease the knot of anxiety in my stomach. Finally, the receptionist approached us. Miss Lawson would like to see you again. We rode the elevator back up. This time, when we entered the conference room, there were 2 additional people present, the team's head of legal affairs and a woman I recognized as the league's ethics officer. This was bigger than just the team now. The league was involved. Patricia gestured for us to sit. Her expression was grim, but resolute. We have verified the authenticity of the documents you provided. Our IT department confirmed that the emails came from Coach Davidson's account. Our financial investigators traced the payment from Stephen Pierce to an account linked to Davidson. The evidence is conclusive. She paused, and I could see the anger simmering beneath her controlled exterior. What Coach Davidson did was not only unethical, it was illegal. It violated league rules, his employment contract, and the trust we placed in him when we hired him. As of this moment, Marcus Davidson is no longer employed by this organization. His contract has been terminated for cause. Relief flooded through me, but Patricia was not done. Darius, on behalf of this organization, I want to offer you a formal apology. What happened to you was inexcusable. You deserved better. You deserved the truth. And you deserved the opportunity to continue your career without this kind of interference. She slid a document across the table. This is an offer of reinstatement to the active roster, with back pay for the time you missed and a contract extension through the end of next season. We are also prepared to issue a public statement this afternoon, explaining that your release was based on fraudulent information and that you are being welcomed back to the team. I looked at Jonathan, who nodded slightly. It was everything we had asked for. Everything and more. I accept, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Thank you. Patricia stood and extended her hand. Welcome back, Darius. I am sorry it took something like this to make things right. I shook her hand, feeling the weight of the last 2 days finally start to lift, but there was still one more piece of business to handle. What about Stephen Pierce? I asked. The league's ethics officer spoke up for the first time. We are opening a formal investigation into Mr. Pierce's conduct. Based on the evidence, he will likely face a lifetime ban from representing players in this league. Your lawsuit against him will proceed independently, and we will provide any evidence we uncover to support your case. Jonathan smiled. That is exactly what we wanted to hear. We left the arena an hour later with signed contracts and a plan for the press conference that would happen the next day. As we walked to the parking lot, I felt lighter than I had in months. Justice had been served. The truth had won. But when I got home and checked my phone, there was a voicemail from an unknown number. The voice was distorted, mechanical, but the message was clear. You think you won, Darius, but this is not over. You should have stayed quiet. Now you are going to pay. The call ended. I stood in my living room staring at my phone, the brief moment of victory already fading into something darker. Someone was threatening me. Was it Stephen Pierce? Was it Davidson? Or was it someone else entirely? Someone I had not even considered? I called Jonathan immediately. He told me to report it to the police and to take it seriously. Threats like this, especially after exposing powerful people, were not something to ignore. That night, I could not sleep again. Every sound in my apartment made me jump. Every shadow seemed menacing. I had won the battle, but I was starting to realize that the war might be far from over. The next morning, I arrived at the arena for the press conference. The media room was packed with reporters, cameras, and bright lights. Patricia Lawson stood at the podium, flanked by Robert Chen and the team's interim head coach, a respected assistant who had been with the organization for a decade. I stood off to the side with Jonathan, waiting for my turn to speak. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another text from an unknown number. Just 2 words. Watch yourself. I deleted it and tried to focus on what was about to happen. Patricia began her statement, explaining the situation in carefully chosen legal language. She apologized to me, to the fans, to the integrity of the game. She announced Davidson's termination and my reinstatement. She promised a full investigation and transparency moving forward. Then it was my turn. I stepped up to the microphone, looking out at the sea of faces and cameras. For a moment, I did not know what to say. How do you summarize betrayal, conspiracy, and redemption in a few sentences? I am grateful for the opportunity to return to this team, I began, my voice steady despite the chaos in my mind. What happened to me was painful and unjust, but it also reminded me why I love this game. Not because of fame or money, but because of the people who stand up for what is right. My teammates, my family, and everyone who refused to let the truth stay buried. I am here today because of them, and I am going to make sure their faith in me was not misplaced. The room erupted with questions, reporters shouting over each other, cameras flashing, but I did not hear any of it. All I could think about was the threat on my phone and the feeling that despite everything I had accomplished in the last 48 hours, this nightmare was far from over. Because somewhere out there, someone was watching, someone was angry, and someone was planning their next move. The threats did not stop. Over the next 3 days, I received 2 more voicemails and a series of text messages, all from different numbers, all with the same distorted voice or cryptic warnings. You made a mistake. They are coming for you. This will not end well for you. I reported everything to the police. They opened an investigation, traced the numbers, but each one led to a burner phone purchased with cash. No names, no faces, no leads. Whoever was doing this knew how to stay hidden. Jonathan advised me to hire private security. Within 24 hours, I had a former police officer named Marcus Reed shadowing me everywhere I went. He was a quiet, intense man in his 40s who never smiled but radiated the kind of competence that made me feel safer just having him around. Meanwhile, the media firestorm continued. The story of Coach Davidson's corruption was everywhere. Sports networks ran segments dissecting the scandal. Social media exploded with opinions. Some people supported me, calling me brave for exposing the truth. Others accused me of being a disgruntled player looking for attention. A few even suggested I had fabricated the evidence. Stephen Pierce released a statement through his lawyer denying everything and threatening to sue me for defamation. Coach Davidson disappeared from public view entirely. His social media accounts deleted, his phone disconnected. It was like he had been erased from existence. But the person I was most worried about was Sarah Mitchell. She had risked everything to give me those documents, and now she was caught in the crossfire. I tried calling her twice, but her number was disconnected. I asked the organization about her, and they told me she had resigned the day after Davidson was fired. No forwarding address, no explanation. I needed to find her. I needed to make sure she was safe. Marcus and I started by going to her apartment, an address I had gotten from a contact in the organization's HR department. It was a modest building in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where people kept to themselves. We knocked on her door. No answer. We asked the building manager if she had seen Sarah. She told us Sarah had moved out 3 days ago in a hurry, paid to break her lease, and left no forwarding information. She seemed scared, the manager said, her eyes full of concern, like she was running from something. My stomach dropped. Sarah was in danger, and it was because of me. We spent the next 2 days searching for her. I reached out to mutual contacts, checked social media, even hired a private investigator. Nothing. Sarah Mitchell had vanished. Then, on the 4th night after the press conference, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost did not answer, expecting another threat, but something made me pick up. Hello? Darius, it is Sarah. Her voice was shaky, terrified. Sarah, where are you? Are you okay? I am not okay. I need your help. They found me. Who found you? Stephen Pierce. He knows I gave you those documents. He sent people to my apartment. I barely got out in time. I have been hiding, moving every night, but I do not know how much longer I can keep this up. He is going to kill me, Darius. I know too much. My blood ran cold. Where are you right now? I am at a motel outside the city, the Blue Star Inn on Route 9, room 23. Please, you have to help me. I do not know who else to trust. Stay there. Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone except me. I am coming right now. I hung up and turned to Marcus, who had been listening to the entire conversation. We need to go. Now. We drove in silence, the city lights fading behind us as we headed into the industrial outskirts where cheap motels lined the highway. The Blue Star Inn was a rundown place with flickering neon signs and bars on the windows. Not the kind of place you stayed unless you were desperate or hiding. Room 23 was on the ground floor, tucked in the corner away from the main office. I knocked softly. Sarah, it is Darius. Open up. I heard movement inside, then the sound of locks clicking open. The door cracked open, and Sarah's face appeared, pale and exhausted. She looked like she had not slept in days. Her eyes were red from crying, her hair disheveled. She opened the door wider, and we stepped inside. The room was small and dingy with a single bed, a TV that probably did not work, and curtains that barely covered the windows. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, her hands trembling. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. I did not know what else to do. Marcus immediately went to the window and checked outside, making sure we had not been followed. I sat down across from Sarah. "Tell me everything. What happened?" She took a shaky breath. 2 days after Davidson was fired, I came home and found my apartment had been broken into. Nothing was stolen, but everything was torn apart. My laptop was smashed. My files were scattered everywhere. It was a message. They wanted me to know they could get to me. She wiped her eyes. I packed a bag and left that night. I have been moving from place to place, paying cash, trying to stay off the grid. But yesterday, I saw them. 2 men in a black car parked outside the motel I was staying at. They did not see me, but I knew they were looking for me. I left immediately and came here. "Did you see their faces?" Marcus asked, still watching the window. "No, but I saw the car again today. They are following me. I do not know how, but they are tracking me somehow." Marcus turned to me. "We need to get her out of here. If Pierce's people found her once, they will find her again. She needs to go somewhere safe, somewhere they cannot reach her." I nodded. "Sarah, pack your things. You are coming with us. We are going to take you somewhere secure, and then we are going to end this." Tears streamed down her face. "I am so sorry, Darius. I never meant for any of this to happen. I just wanted to do the right thing." "You did do the right thing," I said firmly. and I am not going to let them hurt you because of it. We left the motel 5 minutes later, Sarah in the back seat of my car, Marcus in the passenger seat scanning the road for any signs of a tail. We drove for 30 minutes, taking random turns, doubling back, making sure we were not being followed. Finally, Marcus directed me to a secure apartment building downtown, a place with cameras, security guards, and controlled access. It belonged to a friend of his, a former colleague from his police days who owed him a favor. Sarah would be safe there, at least for now. We got her settled in, made sure the door was locked, the windows secure. Marcus stayed with her while I made a call to Jonathan. I explained the situation, the threats, the fact that Sarah was now a target. "This has escalated beyond what I expected," Jonathan said grimly. "Pierce is not just trying to intimidate you anymore. He is trying to eliminate witnesses. We need to bring in the FBI. This is conspiracy, witness intimidation, possibly attempted murder. They have the resources to protect Sarah and build a case against Pierce that will put him away for a long time. Do it," I said. "Whatever it takes." The next morning, 2 FBI agents arrived at the secure apartment. They interviewed Sarah for hours, took statements, gathered evidence. They confirmed what we already suspected. Stephen Pierce had hired people to track her down and silence her. The broken laptop had been an attempt to destroy evidence. The men in the black car were hired muscle, known associates of organized crime figures Pierce had connections with. The FBI assured us that Sarah would be placed in protective custody until Pierce was arrested and charged. They also assigned protection to me, concerned that I might be the next target. Within 48 hours, the FBI raided Stephen Pierce's office and home. They seized computers, financial records, burner phones. They found emails detailing payments to the men who had been following Sarah. They found communications between Pierce and Davidson that went even deeper than what we had uncovered, including evidence of other schemes and other victims. Stephen Pierce was arrested and charged with conspiracy, witness tampering, and solicitation of violence. His bail was set at $2 million. His career was over. His reputation was destroyed. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like I could breathe again. 2 weeks later, I returned to practice with the team. Walking into that locker room felt surreal. My teammates greeted me with hugs, handshakes, and a standing ovation. The interim head coach, a good man named Frank Patterson, pulled me aside and told me he was glad to have me back. But the real moment came when I stepped onto the court for the first time. The feel of the ball in my hands, the sound of sneakers squeaking on hardwood, the rhythm of the game that had always been my sanctuary. It felt like coming home. That night, I called Sarah. She was still in protective custody but doing better. She told me she was planning to testify against Pierce and Davidson when the trials began. She was scared, but she was also determined to see this through. "Thank you, Darius," she said quietly, "for not giving up on me, for keeping me safe." "You saved my career," I replied. "This is the least I could do." After we hung up, I sat on my balcony and looked out at the city. The lights stretched out in every direction, endless and beautiful. So much had happened in such a short time. Betrayal, conspiracy, threats, but also justice, truth, redemption. I thought about Coach Davidson, hiding somewhere in disgrace. I thought about Stephen Pierce, sitting in a cell awaiting trial. I thought about Sarah, brave enough to risk everything for what was right. And I thought about myself, the player who had been cut on his first day by a corrupt coach and who had fought back with everything he had. The fight was not completely over. There would be trials. There would be testimony. There would be media scrutiny and public attention. But the hardest part was behind me. I had survived. I had won. And now it was time to move forward. It was time to play basketball again. It was time to prove that I was more than the scandal that had tried to destroy me. It was time to show the world that truth and integrity still mattered. And most importantly, it was time to reclaim the life that had been stolen from me and make it even better than before. 3 months had passed since the day Coach Davidson cut me from the roster. 3 months since Sarah Mitchell walked into that coffee shop and changed everything. 3 months since the truth came out, and justice began its slow, deliberate march forward. The trials were over now. Stephen Pierce had been convicted on multiple counts of conspiracy, witness tampering, and fraud. He was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison and banned for life from working in professional sports. Marcus Davidson had taken a plea deal, admitting to his role in the scheme in exchange for a reduced sentence. He received 3 years and was permanently barred from coaching at any level. Sarah had testified at both trials. I sat in the courtroom and watched her speak with a strength I had not known she possessed. She told the truth, clearly and without hesitation, even when Pierce's lawyers tried to intimidate her. When it was over, she walked out of that courtroom with her head held high. She had won. We all had. But the real victory was not in the courtroom. It was on the court. Tonight was our first playoff game. The arena was packed, the energy electric. I stood in the tunnel, listening to the roar of the crowd, feeling the familiar pre-game nerves mixed with excitement. My teammates surrounded me, focused and ready. Coach Patterson had done an incredible job stepping in and building a system that brought out the best in all of us. Marcus, my best friend on the team, nudged my shoulder. "You ready for this?" I smiled. "I have been ready." We walked out onto the court together, and the crowd exploded. I heard my name chanted from every corner of the arena. Signs held up by fans, jerseys with my number. It was overwhelming and humbling all at once. As I went through my warm-up routine, I thought about everything that had led to this moment. The betrayal, the conspiracy, the fight for truth, the people who had stood by me, and the people who had tried to destroy me. All of it had brought me here to this moment, stronger and more focused than I had ever been. The game started, and from the first whistle, I felt different, sharper, more present. Every pass I made was precise. Every shot I took felt effortless. I was not just playing basketball. I was playing with purpose, with gratitude, with the knowledge that this opportunity had almost been stolen from me and that I was not going to waste a single second of it. By halftime, I had 22 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds. The crowd was on their feet. My teammates were feeding off the energy. We were up by 15 points, and it felt like nothing could stop us. In the locker room during halftime, Coach Patterson pulled me aside. "Whatever you are doing out there, keep doing it. You are playing the best basketball of your career." I nodded, but the truth was, I was not doing anything different. I was just playing free, without fear, without the weight of betrayal and corruption hanging over me. I was playing the game I loved, surrounded by people I trusted, for a team that had fought to bring me back. The second half was even better. We dominated. I finished the game with 38 points, 9 assists, and 7 rebounds. We won by 23 points. The arena shook with cheers as the final buzzer sounded. My teammates mobbed me on the court, and for a moment, I just closed my eyes and let the feeling wash over me. This was redemption. This was proof that the truth always wins in the end. After the game, I stood at the podium for the post-game press conference. Reporters fired questions at me about my performance, about the playoffs, about how it felt to be back. But one question stood out. "Darius, after everything you have been through, what does this win mean to you?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. This win means that no matter how dark things get, no matter how much people try to tear you down, if you stand up for the truth and surround yourself with the right people, you can overcome anything. This win is not just mine. It belongs to everyone who believed in me when it would have been easier to walk away. It belongs to the people who risked everything to do what was right. And it belongs to everyone out there who has ever been betrayed or knocked down and wondered if they could get back up. This is proof that you can. The room erupted with more questions, but I stepped away from the microphone. I had said what I needed to say. Later that night, I sat in my apartment with a sense of peace I had not felt in a long time. My phone buzzed with congratulatory messages from friends, family, former teammates, and people I had not heard from in years. But the message that meant the most came from Sarah. "I watched the game tonight. You were incredible. Thank you for everything you did for me. I am starting a new job next week, working with a nonprofit that helps whistleblowers navigate the legal system. I want to help people like us, people who did the right thing and paid the price for it. You inspired me to turn this experience into something positive. I hope you are proud of what you accomplished tonight. You deserve every bit of it." I read the message 3 times, a smile spreading across my face. Sarah had not just survived. She had found purpose in her pain. She was turning her nightmare into something meaningful. That was true strength. I replied simply, "I am proud of you. Thank you for giving me the chance to fight back. None of this would have been possible without you." The following weeks were a blur of games, practices, and media attention. We won our first-round playoff series in 5 games. I was playing the best basketball of my life, and the team was clicking in ways we never had before. The adversity had brought us closer, made us tougher, more resilient. One afternoon, Patricia Lawson called me into her office. I walked in expecting another contract discussion or a routine check-in. Instead, she handed me an envelope. "Open it," she said with a rare smile. Inside was a letter from the league office. They were awarding me the Sportsmanship Award for demonstrating integrity, courage, and character in the face of adversity. The ceremony would be held at the end of the season, broadcast nationally, and attended by players, coaches, and executives from across the league. I looked up at Patricia, speechless. "You earned this, Darius. What you did took incredible courage. You did not just fight for yourself. You fought for the integrity of this game. That matters, and we want to make sure people know it." I left her office with tears in my eyes. Not tears of sadness, but of gratitude. For the second chance. For the people who believed in me. For the opportunity to prove that doing the right thing, even when it is hard, even when it costs you everything, is always worth it. That night, I called my mother. She had been my rock through everything, the person who never doubted me, who always told me the truth would come out. When she answered, I could hear the pride in her voice. "I saw the news about the award," she said. "I am so proud of you, baby. Not because of the basketball, but because you never gave up. You fought for what was right. That is the son I raised." We talked for an hour, reminiscing about the early days, the struggles, the dreams we had when I was just a kid shooting hoops in the driveway. She reminded me that this journey was never just about basketball. It was about character, about standing up when it would be easier to stay down, about being the kind of man who could look himself in the mirror and be proud of what he saw. When we hung up, I walked out onto my balcony one last time. The city stretched out before me, alive and vibrant. Somewhere out there, Stephen Pierce was sitting in a prison cell, paying for his crimes. Somewhere out there, Marcus Davidson was living with the consequences of his greed. And somewhere out there, Sarah Mitchell was building a new life, helping others find the courage to speak the truth. As for me, I was exactly where I was supposed to be, playing the game I loved, surrounded by people who had my back. Living proof that betrayal does not have to be the end of the story. It can be the beginning of something even better. I thought back to that morning 3 months ago when Coach Davidson spoke my name with such cold indifference, when he cut me without explanation, without mercy, without care. I thought about the devastation I felt, the anger, the fear that my career was over, and I realized something. That moment, as painful as it was, had been a gift. It had revealed who I really was. It had shown me who my real friends were. It had forced me to fight for myself in ways I never had before. It had made me stronger, wiser, and more grateful for everything I had. The next morning would bring another practice, another game, another step forward. But tonight, I allowed myself to just be, to breathe, to feel the weight of everything that had happened and everything that was still to come. I had been cut on his first day, but the next morning, his assistant had burst into his office with the truth, and that truth had set me free. This was not just a comeback story. This was a story about integrity, about courage, about the people who risk everything to do what is right, about the power of truth in a world that often tries to bury it. And as I stood there, looking out at the city lights, I knew one thing for certain. I was not the same player who had walked out of that film room 3 months ago. I was better, stronger, more determined than ever, and my story was far from over. It was just beginning.